Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a process that, well, it typically takes 12 to 15 years,
Right.
sometimes even stretching up to 30 for advanced therapies. And it costs an average of $2.6 billion.
And that number includes the failures, which is key.
Exactly. Includes the failures, the brutal reality. You start with maybe 5,000 potential compounds, and only one makes it all the way through to approval. Just one.
And even then, once you get into human testing, something like 90% of those candidates will still fail, usually in the clinical trial phases.
That's the core challenge, isn't it? That huge amount of time, massive cost, and that incredibly high failure rate.
Yeah, and it doesn't just hit the pharma company's bottom line. It directly affects you, the patient who's waiting sometimes desperately for life-saving treatments.
This delays everything. And for rare diseases, that kind of financial hurdle can make developing therapies seem almost, impossible sometimes.
Right, and traditionally, everyone talks about fail fast, fail cheap.
Yeah, that's the mantra.
But it's really hard to do. Most of the money gets sunk into those super expensive later stages.
Preclinical, clinical trials.
Exactly. Right before you find out the drug doesn't actually work or isn't safe.
It's a massive bottleneck. Just huge.
It is.
But this stack of sources we've been digging into today, they point towards a potential game changer. Something that could fundamentally reshape this whole picture.
Yeah, they cover the whole spectrum, really. From finding drug targets right at the start, all the way to monitoring medicines after they're approved.
And they all highlight this powerful synergy, this combination of artificial intelligence and cloud computing.
And it's presented in these sources less like just an improvement and more like a real paradigm shift.
That change, yeah.
You've got this explosion of biomedical data, right? Then you add sophisticated AI on top, and it's all powered by the flexible muscle of the cloud. It's creating entirely new ways of doing things.
Okay, so our mission in this deep dive is to really cut through these sources, but pull out the key insights and understand how. How exactly are AI and the cloud working together right now to potentially bring new medicines to you, hopefully faster, more efficiently, and with greater precision.
Sounds good. And maybe we should start by just emphasizing again how tough that traditional path really is.
Agreed. Because those numbers, they really are staggering. We said the timeline 12 to 15 years, maybe up to 30 for complex stuff like gene therapies.
Yeah.
And the cost estimates vary a bit in the sources, but they often circle around that $2.6 billion average when you factor in all the failures.
And the attrition, the dropout rate, it's just relentless. You start with maybe 5,000 compounds. Only about one might even be considered promising enough. Then, if something makes it to preclinical testing, lab and animal studies before humans, only a tiny fraction, like 0.1%, ever move on to human trials. And then in clinical trials with people, something like 80% still fail. Often because, the drug just doesn't work well enough or it has unexpected side effects.
And the time sunk into each phase. Discovery, then preclinical, which itself can be 1 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Getting the green light for human trials, that IND step. Then clinical phases 1, 2, and 3, each taking maybe 1 to 5 years.
It adds up fast.
Then the whole submission for approval, the NDA or BLA. And even after that, post-market monitoring. It's just this long, drawn-out relay race.
Which is exactly why shifting some of that failure detection earlier is so critical.
Right.
AI's big promise here is moving some of those really expensive late-stage failures into the much, much cheaper computational stage. Fail faster, but computationally.
Okay, so here's where the sources really start buzzing, describing this convergence, this data explosion, the power of AI, and the cloud backbone.
Yeah, we're just seeing this tidal wave of biomedical data. You've got multi-omics.
Which is like combining genomics, proteomics, all those different omics data types.
Exactly. Plus medical imaging, electronic health records, EHRs, and all that real-world data, or RWD, that's gathered outside traditional trials.
It's just a huge amount of information.
A flood. And AI gives us the tools, machine learning, deep learning, to actually make sense of it all, to find patterns, make predictions, automate things that humans just couldn't do at that scale or speed.
Okay, but crunching that kind of data with AI needs serious computing power.
Right.
And flexible storage.
Absolutely.
And you need ways for teams all over the world to work together securely. That seems critical.
And that's exactly where cloud computing comes in. It's essential. It provides that scalable high-performance computing, the HPC.
Right.
the flexible storage for these massive data sets, and those secure environments for collaboration.
So the synergy is the key thing. Cloud powers the AI so it can handle the data deluge.
Precisely. It enables this shift towards a more data-driven, predictive, and just more efficient model for drug discovery.
It makes it more accessible, too. The sources mentioned democratization.
Yeah, that's a big point. Smaller companies don't need to shell out millions for their own data centers anymore.
Ah, okay.
They can use the cloud's pay-as-you-go model. It's operational spending, OpEx, instead of massive upfront capital spending, CapEx. That lowers the barrier to entry significantly.
And this creates a kind of virtuous cycle.
That's how the sources put it. Success driven by AI generates even more data.
Which then makes the AI tools better.
Exactly. Which gives companies that have good, curated data and advanced AI platforms a real competitive advantage. It feeds itself.
So underpinning all this AI capability is the cloud infrastructure. It's really foundational.
Totally. It's not just helpful, it's the essential plumbing, the engine room powering this whole transformation.
So starting with a computing power, the scalable HPC.
Right. The cloud lets you access pretty much on demand, really powerful resources like GPUs and TPUs. These are crucial for the heavy-duty stuff.
Like what?
Like running really complex molecular simulations or virtually screening millions, even billions of potential drug compounds against a target, or training these very complex deep learning AI models.
And all the big cloud providers, AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, they offer this.
Yep. And you see companies built around this, like Fovis, which optimizes cloud HPC specifically for discovery, or Sandbox AQ using Google Cloud, scaling up to tens of thousands of virtual machines for specific projects.
And it's pay as you go, so it's cost efficient. You're not paying for idle hardware.
Exactly. And it creates this kind of innovation sandbox. Researchers can quickly spin up the resources they need for an experiment, test an idea, and then spin them back down. No waiting weeks for hardware procurement. Much more agile.
Okay, then there's managing all that data. It's not just big, it's messy, right? Different types.
Incredibly diverse, yeah. All the omics data, imaging files, clinical trial results. It's heterogeneous.
So the cloud helps there too. Storage and organization.
Definitely. It offers scalable, secure storage, but also, crucially, tools to help integrate and harmonize these different data sources. You need to bring it together in a usable way.
Like those platforms mentioned. Illumina's Connected Analytics, Elucidata's Poly.
Right. Those are examples of platforms designed to help manage and standardize this complex data because, the AI is only ever going to be as good as the data you feed it. Good data management is absolutely fundamental.
And collaboration. Drug discovery isn't done in isolation anymore.
Not at all. It's global teams, academics, CROs, biotech partners, big pharma, all working together sometimes.
So the cloud provides a central place for that, securely.
Yeah, exactly. Centralized, secure platforms where these distributed teams can access shared data sets, work together on projects. They have built-in features like access controls, audit trails, version control, all critical when you're dealing with sensitive IP and patient data.
So you can share, say, public omics data, but keep your own proprietary stuff walled off.
Precisely. And speaking of sensitive data patents, clinical results, patient info security and compliance are just, non-negotiable.
Yeah, you can't mess that up.
The major cloud providers invest heavily in security, encryption, identity management, constant monitoring. And they maintain key certifications for the pharma world, like GXP, HIPAA for U.S. health data, GDPR in Europe.
But companies still need their own internal rules, right?
Okay.
Data governance.
Oh, absolutely. The cloud provides secure infrastructure, but the company is still responsible for how they manage and use the data ethically and compliantly within that environment. But using the cloud lets them offload the burden of managing the physical IT infrastructure.
Right. They can focus on the science.
Exactly. It's a strategic move, frees up resources, frees up expertise to focus on discovering medicines, not running servers. That agility is key in such a fast-moving field.
Okay, so we've got the cloud foundation. Now let's really dig into how AI is being used across the actual drug discovery and development pipeline, step by step, starting right at the beginning, target ID and validation.
Right. So finding the biological target, maybe a protein or gene that's linked to a disease, AI is great at analyzing all that multi-omics data we talked about.
In scientific papers, too.
Yeah, using natural language processing, NLP, to scan millions of research papers, patents, reports, looking for connections and potential new targets. Companies like Envisagenics, for instance, focus on analyzing really complex RNA splicing data with AI.
And predicting protein structures. AlphaFold comes up a lot.
It was a huge breakthrough. AI, like AlphaFold, can predict the 3D shape of proteins with amazing accuracy. Knowing the structure is critical for designing drugs that fit into it. AI can also help predict how druggable a target is. Like, can we realistically design a molecule to interact with it effectively? This really speeds up structure-based design.
Okay, so you've found a target. Next is finding molecules that hit identification, and then making them better at optimization.
Exactly. Traditionally, this involved high-throughput screening, HTS, testing thousands or millions of compounds in the lab. AI can analyze that HTS data much faster and more accurately.
Identifying the real hits and throwing out the false positives.
Right. One source mentioned a system, MVSA, processing like 300,000 compounds in seconds. Just incredible speed.
Wow.
And what's really exciting now is generative AI for de novo drug design.
Meaning designing molecules from scratch.
Exactly. Using AI models like VAEs, GNs, transformers to actually invent entirely new molecules specifically designed to have the properties you want. Good binding to the target, good safety profile, etc.
Examples mentioned were MolRL MGPT, Origin.ai's platform.
Yeah. And AI is also used heavily here to predict critical properties computationally in silico, things like ADF.
Absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion, toxicity, the basic pharmacokinetics.
Right. Predicting those properties early, using AI models like QSR or deep learning, helps weed out molecules that are likely to fail later for safety or delivery reasons. It supports that predict-first strategy, like at BMS. Fail computationally, not in expensive lab tests or clinical trials.
Okay, moving into preclinical development. Lab and animal studies. How's AI helping there?
It can help optimize the design of those studies, the in vivo and in vitro experiments, suggesting better protocols based on analyzing past data and literature. Modern vivo was mentioned for optimizing animal studies.
Analyzing the results, too. Like images.
Yes, analyzing complex data like histopathology images, think microscope slides of tissues. Tools like Aphoria use AI for that. Or analyzing complex omics data from animal models.
And does this help with animal welfare?
It can. Those in silico predictions made earlier help prioritize the most promising candidates, potentially reducing the number of animals needed. And better analysis might extract more information from fewer studies. It supports the 3Rs principle: replacement, reduction, refinement of animal testing. Plus, it can help spot potential safety or efficacy signals much earlier than traditional methods.
All right, then we hit clinical trials, often the longest, most expensive part. Where does AI fit in here?
In a lot of places, actually. Optimizing the trial design itself, making them more flexible, like adaptive trials, improving patient selection and stratification.
Finding the right patients for the right trial.
Exactly. Using AI to analyze data from EHRs or genomic data to find patients most likely to benefit from the drug, or those with specific biomarkers. Duke6 AI was mentioned, and a tool called Rectifier reportedly doubled enrollment rates in one case and helped improve patient diversity, which is really important.
What about monitoring patients during the trial?
Big area. AI enables better remote patient monitoring using wearables and digital health tech DHTs. Bioformis is an example. You get more real-time data, potentially spotting issues or responses faster.
Can it predict how the trial might go?
There are efforts there, yes. Predicting overall trial outcomes, predicting which patients might respond best, or even predicting who might drop out of the trial, all potentially saving time and resources.
And managing all the data generated in a trial. Clinical data management, CDM.
Yeah, AI is huge there. Automating data cleaning, validation, finding anomalies or errors. Using NLP, again, to pull structured information out of unstructured text, like doctor's notes or adverse event reports. AWS Comprehend Medical, ClinThink CLIX were examples, and even large language models are being used now to help standardize data, like converting notes into the FHIR format.
Okay, so AI is impacting R&D heavily. What about further down the line? Manufacturing, supply chain.
Yes, definitely. AI can optimize manufacturing processes in real time, predict when equipment might need maintenance to prevent downtime, enhance quality control through automated monitoring and detecting anomalies.
Sources mention Pfizer aiming for, a 10% yield boost and 25% cycle time reduction?
Something like that, using their internal AI. And Moderna automated parts of their quality control using AML on AWS. There's potential for significant waste reduction, too, maybe up to 25%, according to some sources.
And even after a drug is approved. Let's market.
Yeah, pharmacovigilance. Monitoring for safety signals once the drug is out in the wider population. AI, especially NLP and machine learning, can sift through vast amounts of data.
EHRs, social media, medical literature.
Right, looking for potential adverse drug reactions, ADRs, much faster and potentially earlier than traditional methods.
And analyzing real-world data, RWD.
Crucial. Using AI to analyze RWD generates real-world evidence, RWE. Regulators are increasingly interested in RWE to understand how drugs perform in diverse, real-world populations outside the controlled environment of a clinical trial. It informs decisions about drug use, labeling, even future trial designs.
So, looking across the whole pipeline, the big picture is this shift from a slow, reactive process
to something much more proactive, predictive, data-driven. And the cloud is what enables handling and connecting all that data across these different stages.
creating a kind of digital thread.
Yeah, linking knowledge and insights from discovery through development and beyond, improving how we translate basic science into actual therapies. And it makes other things more feasible too, like repurposing existing drugs for new uses much faster and cheaper with AI. And it definitely brings personalized medicine closer to reality.
Okay, this sounds incredibly promising. But what really brings it home are the specific examples, the real-world successes.
Absolutely. Case studies are where you see the impact.
Let's talk about in silico medicine. They seem to be a poster child for this end-to-end AI approach.
They really do. They use their integrated AI platform, pharma.ai. It has different components like PandaOmics for finding the biological targets.
Right.
And Chemistry 42 for designing totally new molecules using generative AI.
And the speed they achieved is pretty remarkable, right?
Yeah, the sources highlight their work on a drug for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, IPF. The candidate is called rentosirtib. They went from identifying the target to having a preclinical candidate ready in just 18 months.
18 months, compared to years usually.
Exactly. And across their whole portfolio, they say the average time to get to a preclinical candidate is around 13 months.
And the cost saving mentioned was huge, too. Something like $150,000 to get a fibrosis candidate to the preclinical stage.
That was the figure cited for one candidate, yeah. A tiny fraction of the typical millions spent.
But the really big news about rentosirtib is the clinical trial results, isn't it?
That's the crucial validation. It's reportedly the first drug where AI discovered the target and generative AI designed the molecule to then show positive results in a phase I clinical trial.
What did the trial show?
It met its main safety goal, which is always primary in early trials, but it also showed a dose-dependent improvement in lung function, specifically forced vital capacity, FVC, compared to placebo. And patients reported improvements in quality of life. That's a massive milestone for AI and drug discovery.
It shows the approach can lead to potentially effective drugs, not just candidates on paper.
Precisely. And their business model, licensing out these AI-discovered assets, generating deals worth over $3.5 billion in total value, that shows the industry is taking this seriously.
Okay, another compelling case study. Benevolent AI during the COVID pandemic. Drug repurposing, right?
Yeah, a great example of speed in a crisis. They used their AI platform, which includes this huge biomedical knowledge graph running on AWS.
Like a map of biological connections.
Sort of, yeah. Connecting genes, diseases, drugs, symptoms. And they used it to rapidly screen existing approved drugs to see if any might work against COVID-19.
And they found baricitinib really quickly.
In just 48 hours, the sources say. Their AI didn't just flag it, it proposed a specific mechanism suggesting it might block enzymes called NAXs, which could stop the virus entering cells on top of its known anti-inflammatory effect via JAK inhibition.
So the AI made a testable hypothesis.
Exactly. And subsequent clinical trials like Cove Barrier and ACT-T2 validated that hypothesis. Baricitinib showed benefits, reducing deaths and secondary infections in hospitalized patients.
And it got approved for COVID use.
Yeah, emergency use authorization and then full FDA approval. It really highlighted how AI, powered by the cloud for rapid analysis, could accelerate finding potential treatments during an emergency.
And then, of course, the COVID vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna. Speed was just unprecedented.
Absolutely incredible. They both leaned heavily on AI and cloud infrastructure. Pfizer worked with AWS. Moderna was basically built as a digital native, data-driven company from the start.
Pfizer compressed, an 8 to 10 year process into 269 days?
Just staggering. And they used AI in specific ways, like predicting optimal mRNA sequences for the vaccine, which reportedly helped get extra doses out of each manufacturing batch.
And they have an internal AI platform now, Vox.
Yeah, running on AWS. It's a generative AI platform they're using to optimize manufacturing processes, aiming for big gains in yield and reductions in cycle time. Sources say they've already seen things like a 20% increase in throughput in some areas.
And Moderna used AI for quality control.
Right, automating parts of the quality control process using AI and machine learning on AWS, significantly reducing manual review times. Their whole setup integrated cloud, IoT sensors, AI, creating this really intelligent manufacturing and supply chain.
So the vaccines weren't just about discovery speed, but also manufacturing scale-up, enabled by these technologies.
Exactly, essential for responding to the global crisis at that scale and speed.
And there are loads of other examples popping up, right? It seems like this is becoming much more widespread.
Definitely. The sources mention Google's work on an AI co-scientist using their Gemini models, trying to get AI to generate hypotheses and design experiments itself. AlphaFold 3 is now predicting interactions between molecules, not just protein structures.
Alphabet's Isomorphic Labs is partnering with Big Pharma, Recursion using Google Cloud and AI on massive biological datasets.
Yeah, Recursion's models like MolPhoenix and MolGPS are analyzing petabytes of image and omics data to predict how cells react to drugs. BioCordex used Google Cloud to link tumor characteristics to antibody-drug conjugate efficacy.
Origin.AI's platform for optimization. Iambic Therapeutics, predicting clinical outcomes with their Enchant model.
It shows the growing sophistication and breadth of applications. We're moving beyond using AI for just single, isolated tasks towards these much more integrated, AI-driven workflows across the whole pipeline.
And you see this clear relationship between the AI innovators and the cloud providers offering the scale and tools they need.
It's symbiotic. And ultimately, as we said with rentosertib and bercitinib, it's the clinical success and regulatory approvals that provide the ultimate validation for this whole approach.
It's clearly a transformative wave, but like any major technological shift, it's not without its hurdles. There are significant challenges here, too.
Oh, absolutely. And data is probably the biggest, most fundamental one.
Quality, quantity, access.
All of the above. Data can be poor quality, inconsistent. There might not be enough of it, especially for rare diseases. It's often locked away in proprietary silos within different companies or research groups. Getting access is hard, and formats are all over the place.
And a huge issue is the lack of diversity in a lot of existing data sets.
Critically important. If the data used to train AI models isn't diverse, reflecting different populations, then the AI itself can inherit those biases.
Leading to tools that work well for some groups, but poorly for others.
Exactly. It can skew research priorities and even worsen existing health inequities. It's a major ethical and scientific problem.
Then there are the security and privacy concerns. This is sensitive stuff, IP, patient data.
Extremely sensitive. Companies need rock-solid security, and they absolutely have to comply with regulations like GXP, APA, GDPR, even when using cloud services.
So it requires more than just the cloud provider's security.
Yes, strong internal data governance policies are essential. Standardizing data helps too, following FAIR principles. Findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, and increasingly using privacy-preserving techniques like federated learning becomes important.
Okay, beyond data, what about the AI algorithms themselves? Any challenges there?
Definitely. One big one is generalizability. Does a model that performs well on its training data actually work well on new, unseen data in the real world? Or did it just memorize the training set? That's overfitting.
And the black box problem. We hear that a lot with deep learning.
Right. These models can be incredibly complex, millions or billions of parameters. It can be very difficult to understand why the AI made a particular prediction or decision.
Which makes it hard to trust or fix if it goes wrong.
Exactly. It hinders trust, makes troubleshooting hard, and poses a challenge for regulatory agencies who need to understand how these tools work to approve them.
Is there a lack of standards for testing these models?
That's another issue. Validation and benchmarking are tricky. There aren't always universally agreed upon standards or public reference data sets to compare different AI models effectively. This is where explainable AI, or XAI, comes in, trying to develop methods to make AI decisions more transparent and interpretable.
Makes sense. And regulations?
Yeah.
Are they keeping up?
Well, that's a moving target. Existing regulatory frameworks weren't really designed for these dynamic AI and machine learning tools, especially ones that might learn or change over time based on new data.
How do you validate something that's constantly evolving?
It's a challenge. Regulators like the FDA are developing risk-based approaches, focusing on the context of use, how exactly the AI tool is intended to be used. They stress the need for transparency from developers, and harmonizing regulations across different countries is another layer of complexity. But the agencies are generally encouraging companies to engage with them early in the development process.
And then there are the practicalities, cost and talent. Is this stuff expensive?
It can be.
Yeah.
While the long-term value proposition looks huge, predictions of $60 to $110 billion potential value from generative AI in pharma alone,
Wow.
the initial investment in technology, software, integrating data, plus the ongoing cloud computing costs, OpEx, can be significant.
Then finding people who understand both pharma and AI.
That's the talent gap. It's a critical bottleneck. You need people with cross-disciplinary expertise who understand the biology and chemistry and the data science and AI engineering. Finding, hiring, and retaining that talent is tough.
So it requires a cultural change inside companies, too, getting different teams to work together.
Absolutely. Breaking down silos between R&D scientists, IT, data scientists, clinicians. It requires investment in training and upskilling the existing workforce as well.
Could these costs and talent needs actually widen the gap between big pharma and smaller players?
That's a real concern raised in the sources, yeah. Companies with deeper pockets might be able to adopt these technologies faster and more effectively, potentially increasing disparities.
So if you bundle all these challenges, data bias, black boxes, privacy, regulation, it kind of creates a potential trust deficit.
That's a good way to put it. Building and maintaining trust among researchers, regulators, doctors, and especially patients is crucial. And overcoming that requires more than just technical fixes. It needs robust ethical frameworks, strong governance, public discussion, and clear communication about what these tools can and can't do.
And you mentioned the speed mismatch earlier. Technology moving faster than rules.
Yeah, that's a constant theme. The pace of AI development is incredibly rapid, arguably outstripping the development of the ethical guidelines and regulatory structures needed to manage it responsibly. This creates uncertainty and really underscores the need for ongoing, proactive dialogue between all the stakeholders, industry, regulators, ethicists, patient groups, everyone.
And these challenges aren't separate issues, are they? They seem linked.
Very much so. Data quality impacts model reliability and fairness. The black box problem impacts validation and trust. Trust requires transparency, ethical use, and clear regulation. You need holistic solutions that address these interconnected problems together.
Okay. Despite the challenges, the future trajectory looks incredibly exciting building on these foundations.
Yeah, the sources point to some really powerful developments on the horizon.
Like advanced generative AI doing even more.
Right. Not just designing small molecules, but potentially complex biologics, peptides, antibodies. Even generating realistic synthetic data to supplement real-world data sets where data might be scarce or sensitive.
And these foundation models, or large language models for biology.
That's a huge area. Models like AlphaFold, Protein MPNN, MoldGPS, Enchant. They're being trained on vast amounts of biological data to understand the language of biology sequences, structures, functions. They can generate novel drug candidates, predict properties, and often be fine-tuned for very specific drug discovery tasks.
Quantum computing keeps coming up, too. Is that getting real for pharma?
It's still early days, but the potential is immense for problems that are just too complex for today's classical computers.
Like simulating molecular behavior really accurately.
Exactly. Or predicting how strongly a drug binds to its target. Or exploring the truly vast space of possible drug-like molecules. We're starting to see hybrid approaches combining quantum and classical AI. Some sources see 2025 as a potential inflection point for these hybrid methods becoming more practical. In silico was mentioned as already using things like quantum circuit-borne machines.
What about federated learning? You mentioned it for privacy.
Yeah, it's really important. It allows multiple institutions to collaboratively train an AI model on their local data without ever having to pool or share the sensitive raw data itself.
So the data stays put, but the model learns from all of it.
Precisely. It preserves privacy, helps with compliance like GDPR, and enables training models on much larger, more diverse data sets than any single institution might have. Crucial for rare diseases or building fairer, more equitable AI models, Auken is a company often cited in this space.
And then there's the idea of self-driving labs. Sounds like science fiction.
It's getting closer to reality. The concept is integrating AI with robotics and automated lab equipment, all connected via the cloud.
So the AI designs an experiment,
Robots carry it out, sensors collect the data, the AI analyzes the results.
and then the AI uses those results to decide the next experiment to run.
Exactly, creating this closed loop. Design, make, test, analyze. Continuously learning and optimizing. Examples mentioned include labs at Eli Lilly and IBM's RoboOxen platform.
The potential speed up there sounds enormous.
Huge increases in speed, efficiency, throughput, and reproducibility. It allows researchers to explore scientific questions and chemical space much, much faster than before.
And ultimately, does all this bring us closer to personalized medicine?
That's really the central promise for many people. AI analyzing your specific data, your genomics, your health records, data from your wearables, maybe RWD from similar patients, all managed on cloud platforms.
To tailor treatments just for you.
Right. Stratifying patients more precisely for trials, predicting your individual response to a drug, predicting your risk of side effects, helping doctors optimize your dosage, maybe even designing therapy specifically matched to your biology. It's that shift from treating the average patient to proactive, precise management of your individual health.
So the overall outlook from these sources, the industry is changing fundamentally.
No question. The expectation is enhanced precision, major gains in R&D efficiency, hopefully cost reductions eventually, and importantly, higher success rates for drug candidates getting to patients.
Timelines getting shorter.
That's the hope and the trend. Moving towards integrating all these different types of data, multimodal data, and using sophisticated in silico computational models of systems biology to understand disease complexity. The market growth projections reflect this, potentially over $16 billion for AI and drug discovery by 2034.
But AI is a tool, an augmentation, not a replacement for scientists.
That comes through very clearly. It's about empowering human scientists, freeing them from repetitive tasks, giving them better tools to analyze complex data, enabling them to ask bigger questions and design smarter experiments.
Yeah, that idea of AI as co-scientists that Google is exploring, it suggests a shift in human roles, maybe more towards strategic direction and interpretation.
And those autonomous labs, they could create this incredibly powerful data flywheel effect, couldn't they?
How so?
Well, they rapidly generate huge amounts of high-quality standardized data. That data then feeds back into training even better AI models, which then design better experiments, generating even more data. It's a virtuous cycle that could create an exponential advantage for organizations that master it.
And when you think about the convergence of all these future trends, quantum computing, boosting AI, federated learning, providing the data, autonomous labs doing the experiments, all running on the cloud.
It really does promise to unlock capabilities we can barely imagine today, tackling diseases and biological problems that have seemed intractable for decades.
So, to sum it all up then, this deep dive into our sources really confirms it. AI and cloud computing aren't just hype in the pharma world.
Not at all.
They are fundamentally reshaping how drugs are researched and developed. They provide the muscle to handle this explosion of biomedical data.
Right.
They're accelerating processes at literally every stage of the pipeline, and we're seeing real, validated success stories now that show the impact.
Yeah, the industry is clearly moving away from that old model, slow, incredibly costly, high failure rate.
Towards something faster, much more efficient, and increasingly predictive.
It's not just tweaking the edges, it really feels like a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And it's driven by that essential synergy, AI smarts and the cloud's scale and flexibility working together.
And, as we were going through all this, a really striking dynamic kept popping up in the sources.
What was that?
Well, on one hand, you have this incredible vision of the future AI as co-scientists, autonomous labs, rapid learning cycles, fundamentally changing how we even think about finding medicines.
Right, the technological acceleration is amazing.
But on the other hand, so many sources also flag this issue. The sheer speed of this tech advancement seems to be rapidly outpacing our ability to develop the ethical rules and the regulatory frameworks we need to govern it responsibly.
That tension is absolutely critical, isn't it? As we race towards this future where AI might engineer our medicines with unbelievable speed and precision, what's the governance we need? How does society ensure this incredible power is used safely, equitably, and truly for the benefit of everyone?
What role do you think we as a society play in shaping that future?